Hey everybody, I just want to introduce you to Doc Jen on the Warrior Wellness Program. And today, Jamie Walden will be joining us because we're going to do a phenomenal program, and it's going to be a metabolic reset. And it's going to be for 6 weeks, and it's going to be really exciting. So welcome to the show, and we'll catch you in a minute. Hey everybody, welcome back again to the Hidden Day. We have a special series going on. You know, we have Warrior Wellness with Doc Jen, and you know our warrior brother, Jamie Walden. Well, we've teamed up. Doc Jen has some phenomenal information for us as the body of Christ, and it's dealing with our health. So this Warrior Wellness series is going to have to do with a metabolic reset. So that's the name of this. And it's going to be a really intense program. And she's going to go through all the details with it now. But we brought Jamie on because he's our guinea pig. You know, who better than a crayon eater to come by and try out your stuff to make sure it works. You know, I love you, Jamie.
Yeah, hey, that's what the U.S. troops are for, right? All the vaccination testing and vetting. So I'm used to it.
Okay, good. Well, it won't be quite as harmful as that. And
okay, good.
I can promise you will not turn into a Rephaim.
Yeah, well, my 3 rounds of anthrax vaccinations gave me bad gas, so let's see if we can avoid that.
Well, fortunately, there's coffee for that.
Yeah.
Don't tell Jen.
It's not on the list, but I didn't start yet.
Oh, good. I do have a couple of scriptures. You got your scripturizer up there, Jamie?
No, my scripturizer.
How about you, Jen? You got your Bible up?
I've got a Bible nearby.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna have to do this myself. We're gonna have to bring up Matthew, and we are going to read. What happened to mine? It's gone. I'm going to read Matthew 6, 31 to 32, because your introduction here says the principle is, I truly believe God has provided everything we need to maintain optimal health. And we stand by that. So we're going to bring it up scripturally. I'm going to read Matthew 6, 31. All right, therefore, take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows what you have need of in all these things. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Okay, so it says right here, he will provide for us. Okay, and he shows us the way. And there's lots of verses like this. If we read 7:11, not the store, but the verse, Matthew 7:11. And that says, if ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? So it's kind of, and I got a handful of them, but for we'll hit them along the way, so I don't bore everybody right now. Just but the bottom line is, there's scriptures all over the place. It says God knows what you need; He will provide, and He gives you everything we need. So, with that, Doc Jen, welcome to the show, and thank you for doing a metabolic reset. Could you give us a quick outline of how this is all going to work?
So, what I want to do is give your viewers, give whoever watches this, strategies. Okay, so these are just strategies to break through weight loss resistance, to optimize your health, to slow aging, to maximize longevity. So these are things that our bodies are created to do already, that we're just kind of biohacking, right?
Okay.
Biohacking is big right now. So we're kind of biohacking the system and using the things that God has already given us to maintain optimal health.
Okay. Jamie, how's that sound to you?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It's interesting. I was thinking, for viewers that don't know, Doc Jen and I have some history, right? She actually, we met up in Missouri. We had talked online a couple times. We met up in Missouri at a conference at the Warrior Summit and Retreat, and I had a pretty significant injury, the biggest injury that I've had yet up to this date in my life, which is hard for a guy like me to be taken out of the fight and the ability to train and exercise and do things. And she approached it and gave of her time and was selfless and sacrificial in the way that her and her husband were serving me and kind of working on the knee, doing some physical therapy along with some other types of treatments to be able to assist with that. And it was unbelievably important. But it was that the injury in my knee triggered a whole cascade of things that I didn't realize where I was actually at physically. I was of the mindset that if I just train super hard, I'm good to go. But that knee injury has caused me to start examining and digger deeper into all kinds of my other secondary and tertiary levels of fitness, whether it's cardiovascular or vascular in general, obviously neurological, and then different musculoskeletal structures. And I realized, like, dude, I am not near where I need to be at. And I actually need to reset and reprogram my entire way of thinking, because here's what I desire. And I know that this is what Doc Jen obviously brings to the table as an amazing gift that to people that want to enter into it, is that I want to age gracefully. I want to be like Moses had spoken of, and also Caleb, whose sight had not grown dim and his vigor was unabated. And I keep thinking, like, I want to be like that stud Caleb at 85 that's like, boy, that land's my inheritance. Give me that land. I'm more than able to take it. And I'm realizing that I have actually contaminated my body, and I actually was grieved and had to do some repentance that it was one area that I hadn't fully surrendered to the Lord. So anyways, I digress. Jen, like, pour into me, girl. What's up? What do we got going on?
All right, so just to cover all of our selves with the environment that we're in right now, I'm just going to read this disclaimer. So this information
Love disclaimers.
Just offering health, wellness, fitness information for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for, nor does it replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. My intent is only to provide information, okay? So don't take this as gospel. This is simply what I do for myself and what I provide for my clients. Cool? I also want to note that so this work is a culmination of training with Dr. Tennant, who is brilliant, and HCF, and a lot of other really amazing clinicians. So I've taken pieces of their work and created my own program, and this is a program that I use, but I just want to be careful with respecting their work, because they are very particular. Dr. Tennant, I had to sign a 15-page waiver just to walk in the door. So just be respectful of that.
Okay. So there's the crux of it all, ladies and gentlemen. It's not medical advice, so stop it. It's just her ideas and thoughts and opinions.
So what I wanted to do is offer a challenge. So this is something that I do for myself, and when we kind of dig into the root of it, you'll kind of understand how it goes. But we get sick because the body is either exposed to something that our bodies don't like, so generally a toxin, lots of different types. We talked about that the last show that Dave and I did. Or the body is missing something that it needs, whether that's a nutrient, a mineral, water, right? And so there's the Nobel Prize recipient from 1912, his name is Dr. Alexis Carrel, said the secret of life is both to feed and nourish the cells and to let them flush their waste and toxins. So not a lot of people get into the cellular level. So this is addressing the cellular level of our bodies.
Okay. I had a question about that. My doctors always cringe when I come in. I told him I was having these really bad headaches, and he told me to take ibuprofen. And I'm like, so what you're saying is I have headaches because I have an ibuprofen deficiency? And he's like, no, well, I said, can you give me some ideas on how to not get them to begin with? Yeah, I don't take any of their prescriptions. They kind of look at me funny.
Our system is reactive, it's not preventative. So this is something that you can do preventatively to maintain your health.
Okay. Now, I got some of your principles here. The stemnomic principle.
A stemnomic principle. So, if you've heard of stem cell therapy, it's gotten to be pretty big more recently. You can pay a lot of money for it. But essentially, the idea is to take stem cells, which is the base form of our cells, which will then differentiate into these different types of cells that do different things and different organs. And so we can actually coax our bodies to make these stem cells with this process that we're going to go through. So that is the basis of the stemnomic principle, is just stimulating the body through different coaxing mechanisms to create more stem cells.
So allegedly, we can create new stem cells, which to me sounds a whole lot better than using aborted baby parts and stealing theirs. So that just on a much deeper level, it sounds exciting to me that I can have my own body create them. Yeah. Allegedly.
Save a lot of money.
Yeah. And babies, for that matter. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was going to ask Jen, so if we have like the end state and we're working backwards, what would be the end result, the end goal of entering into this type of like you said, preventative therapy, this more holistic approach, and even this stemnotic type of approach? What would be the end state? And then obviously I know we're getting there, but how does that play out in real time for, let's just say, a guy like me? I'm pushing 40, not quite there yet. I've used and abused my body. It could be worse, could be a lot better. I'm starting to experience some of the aspects of degeneration or just, wear and tear on my body. And what could it do? What would be the hopes that we would see an outcome in just a normal guy like me on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So the basic idea is that your stem cells are how the body heals, right? So when you go in, if you were to go in and have the stem cell therapy, they would inject these stem cells into a knee joint or whatever, and these stem cells would then stimulate the healing. They would kind of kickstart that healing. But the older that we get, the less we make of these natural stem cells. But again, if you kind of go through the correct process, you can stimulate the body to make it yourself. People that have gone through this program will report that old injury sites will kind of ache and they'll hurt, and they'll kind of remind the person that never quite fully healed. And that's because now that the body can kind of focus, those stem cells are migrating to that area and are actually fully healing that area.
Wow, that's amazing that it can. Well, it's just the body's such a machine, I mean, if there's anybody that goes at depth, to obviously the cellular level, and neurological science and cellular science is radical, but then when you even go deeper down into the molecular and atomic, subatomic level of how the body actually functions, you realize like it is it's a perfectly designed machine. It's radical. I have this, my Bible turned to this picture here, or this verse here, 2 Corinthians 7:1. It says, "Since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates both body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God." I think it's interesting, a very particular word usage of what contaminates our bodies. And we know, obviously, we don't got to get into all the lost in the weeds on what our bodies are being inundated with on a daily basis, but it's definitely contaminants, to say the least. But to know and understand that we can, through even natural processes and with the help of people like you who have been gifted to really study and know the inner workings of healing, see that regenerated, is just awesome. And I'm excited to learn more about it, because I know I'm in need of it, and I can't imagine how many other people are actually in need of that as well.
Yes, I always go back to, the verse in Hosea, "My people perish for lack of knowledge," and that can be applied to a lot of things. But I, being in the field that I am, I always apply it to the physical. People don't know this, they haven't been taught this, so they don't realize that yes, your body can do this, and it's a really beautiful process.
That's awesome.
But it's amazing.
It kind of reminds me of he invented us that way to begin with, and created us and formed us and molded us, where Adam had that ability to live forever. And it just shows when we're learn more and more about our bodies, the only thing that's basically aging us is sin, because we could see all the inner workings that are behind the scenes that would literally regenerate us perpetually. And I think when we see him face to face, we'll have our perfect DNA back. And, let's see if we can get closer to that now.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so next you want to talk about autophagy. Did I say that right?
So autophagy, but autophagy are the two pieces. So auto actually means self, and phagy means to eat. So the word autophagy actually means self-eating. So the principle, again, going back to the Autonomic principle, is the body's way of recycling old cells, recycling debris, just kind of cleaning out the damage so that we can regenerate newer, healthy cells. So that's the process and principle behind autophagy. Your body is going to start to scavenge this old cellular debris, old garbage that is causing other issues, and we're going to recycle it, clean it up, and make new cells.
Oh, okay, good. Now, in 2016, there was apparently Yoshinori Sosumi.
Yeah.
Oh.
So another Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah.
His research proved that autophagy becomes more intensive when an organism is under stress. So when we do something like a fast, our cells have to adapt, and that creates this increased process of autophagy.
Okay, so fasting literally is good for your body.
It is excellent for the body, and that's why the Bible says when you fast, not if you fast.
Okay, so he knew what he was doing. That's kind of what. Now, let me ask you this about that. The fasting, who determines how long? And I hear about the Daniel fast now, and then I hear about intermittent fasting. Are you going to differentiate them?
Yep, we're going to talk about the different kinds of fasts a little bit. And again, this process will walk us through. So I do this, and we'll actually all do this together, whoever wants to join this challenge, because I'm going to help you to kind of walk through each phase so that your body's prepared to fast.
Okay. And yeah, I think it's fair to mention, I don't know if we actually mentioned that we're starting the program, and this is the kind of the introduction to it. And we're going to be doing a 6-week program, and that is going to go through the different steps that you have laid out to help us prepare for this fast, right?
Yes, correct.
Correct. All right, Jamie, insights, thoughts, questions?
No, I'm eager to hear it start marching out. I got my pen and paper, and I'm ready for it.
Jamie is quiet. That's new. Telomeres.
All right. So telomeres, when we define them, are regions of repetitive nucleotides. They, I think, way back before we really understood what telomeres were, just thought they were kind of rubbish. But telomeres are actually the end parts of our chromosomes, and they have this sort of repeating sequence because as we age, we start to lose the length of our telomeres. So we can measure our biological age by the length of those telomeres, okay? So with this process, we're going to help the body to maybe lengthen. I can't promise that everyone will lengthen, but
allegedly
lengthen and at least maintain, so that we won't shorten the telomeres more, because they are the indicator of our biological age.
Oh, that is interesting. Who doesn't love a good telomere? All right. Now, those are some of the outlines. Let me see. So some of the things we need to do, and this is to help us prepare along the way, is breathe correctly. How does one not breathe correctly, and what should they do to fix it?
Okay, so when I talk to my clients about oxygen, very few people realize that they don't breathe well. So we have what's called the autonomic nervous system, which is the brain, essentially the part of the brain that we don't have to think about. Like, we don't tell our heart to beat, we don't tell our muscles to contract and relax. So it's automatic.
Mm-hmm.
So the autonomic nervous system has
Okay.
a sympathetic portion, which is that fight or flight that most people they understand that fight or flight term. And we have a parasympathetic, which is our rest digest. That's where we heal. So we can influence what part of that autonomic nervous system we're in by the way that we breathe. So
Okay.
imagine, like, we don't necessarily have lions and tigers and bears that we're running from today, but we have a lot of stressors.
How do
And
you
so
know?
people come into me very stressed, and I
Mm-hmm.
reteach them how to breathe. So babies breathe diaphragmatically. If you watch a baby breathe, it's all belly. When you watch an adult breathe, or most people breathe, generally it's up in the chest. So you can see that they're not breathing efficiently. So when we breathe down into the diaphragm, you get to fill the whole lung space, and you shift your body out of sympathetic, out of fight or flight, to parasympathetic. So I have this phrase that we cannot be in performance mode if we're in survival mode. So that fight or flight is survival mode. The parasympathetic is rest, digest, heal. So you can shift yourself just by breathing well.
So what if I wanted to be in a fight? Should I breathe in my chest? And then if I wanted to relax, I breathe in my belly?
So if you are in a situation like, you had somebody threaten you, or you are working out, you're naturally going to kind of shift there. You
Mm-hmm.
don't generally have to teach anybody how to do that.
Ah, okay.
But with especially the tactical guys that I work with, what I do want to do is teach people to operate well under stress, right?
Okay.
So that's where I'm trying to create a big cushion so that when they are under stress, because we know that when somebody has, when your heart rate starts to get higher, up in that 140, 150 beats per minute range, you start to lose fine motor skills, you start to lose executive motor skills, so the ability to make smart decisions. So we want to create buffers. So I want to teach people to work well under stress.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
we can do that with our breathing.
Okay, and that's going to be part of the 6-week course.
Yeah. So
Okay.
again, in order to heal and to perform, we need to be out of that fight or flight. So we incorporate your breathing. So if you are a person who is anxious, you just think about your breathing. You focus in on your breathing a little bit. That's a way to get a lot of oxygen into your system. The other reason that that's important is because, so this can get I can go really far down this road, but most people understand pH, right? So most people understand that a body's pH has been said that it's 7.4. That's a healthy pH level. That pH level corresponds to what a physicist might use the word voltage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody is in a low voltage state or a low pH state, you have less oxygen saturation in your body. And our bodies need a lot of oxygen, right? So if I were to try to hold my breath for 5 minutes, I would pass out because we need oxygen. So a lot of people are actually suffering with different illnesses because they're not getting enough oxygen. And even though the oxygen saturation tests might say you're fine, your organs and your different areas of your body are not getting efficient oxygen.
So we have
so while we're unaware, we're actually in a kind of a persistent acidotic state. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Just due to I mean, obviously general hypoxia, but it's related to how our parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system are interacting. And I know, like what you're saying about, like, you can't be at what'd you say? I wrote it down. Let me read it. You can't be at
You're
your
not going to
peak
be in a
performance
performance mode and a survival mode.
in a survival mode. And I know that speaks to me. It's funny because that, that's why we're kind of doing this thing is I've been in high intensity type of reality for like 20 years straight, right? Just because of my career path and stuff like that. And I have yet to be able to turn it off. So I actually suffer from adrenal fatigue,
Yep.
what I would consider high anxiety, even though there's no stress around me. It's that hypervigilance, right? That hypervigilance is wearing me out. I can know and experience the adrenal fatigue, shortness of breath, chest tightness, all these things that I'm like, what? That's for the weenies, right? Like,
Right.
why would I be like, why would I be stressful? Nothing's ever bothered me before. You know, this is kind of the world I live in. But I think it's one of those things where it's that cumulative effect on my
Right.
body at the cellular level, where even though I'm in a place of what would be peace and security, I can't get the neurology to switch over
Right.
to the actual body functions to where I can decompress. There's no like I have an inability to decompress, and this is why it's relatable to warriors. And even like, you know, I like to talk a lot about resiliency and building resilient families, you know, being resilient men and women. You know, this idea of resiliency is the reason why this is very valuable to me is because I can feel my resiliency degrading because I have an inability to switch that off to sleep well at night, to get back into good circadian rhythms, to allow my body to heal, and like you're saying, to offload the bad, right? I know that whole perfusion, even that aspect of perfusion and that intercellular exchange right down there in the alveoli, like that ability is decreasing, and therefore what probably creates more anxiety in me more than anything is that I know my performance is decreasing.
Yep.
So I'm like, crap, I'm losing my performance. So then it's like, okay, push harder, drive harder, overcome.
Right.
And that makes it worse.
That's not the right answer, is it, Jen? That's not the right answer.
Correct.
Well, that's a surprise. Jamie's overachieving.
But it's not, it's actually very, very common in his population. I've worked with Navy SEALs who are broken, Rangers. Like, I've worked with some high level tactical guys, and they're all in the same area. They've all had the adrenal fatigue. A lot of them are low testosterone. You know, they have all created this cascade of effects because they've been in this high stress lifestyle for so long, and they've kind of been tunnel vision for so long, and now their body can't get out of that.
Does that count for the Facebook arguments I get into, or no?
So again, a lot of people, I can't say that anybody has come to me in a parasympathetic state. Everyone who comes in, I can look at your body and say, you are in fight or flight mode. And it could be anything, because we're just so inundated with it now.
Oh, I thought you would look at me and say you're just a big tub of lard. And I could fix it.
Yeah, you just stick a Capri Sun in your side and start sucking really hard.
Oh, man. So on that note, let's do this. Philippians 4:10. But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Now unto our God and Father be glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So now breathing is next. Clean water. What do you mean by that? Tap water is no good?
Tap water is terrible. And the more you find out about tap water, the less you'll want anything to do with it. So we talked a little bit about pH, and there's been kind of this increased talk, we'll say, about an alkali diet or alkaline water. And people say it, but they don't understand what it means. So acidity and alkalinity relates to pH. pH stands for potential hydrogen. So oxygen, again, dissolves in a higher pH. So if we want oxygen to be in our systems, we need a higher alkalinity type environment, okay? So tap water is very acidic because it's so toxic. So in our tap water, we have glyphosate because it's very stable in water. We have arsenic, we have pesticides, we have chloramines, we have bacteria, we have nitrates, we have fluorine, we have lead, we have the residual pharma drugs, we have the chromium-6, which was the basis of the movie Aaron Brockovich several years ago. You know, the chlorine, all of that, it's all in our water, right? So according to the EPA, the acceptable ratio of chlorine to water is 4 parts chlorine per million of water, okay? So keep that number in mind. An ideal swimming pool is generally going to be 1 to 1.5 parts per million, a swimming pool, okay? In our tap water, in the water most of us are bathing in and using, it is 3 times that much, okay? And the reason that you don't smell it, I've gotten very sensitive to it, so I can smell it, but the smell of the chlorine is covered because they add ammonia. Okay?
There's a
And
toxic mix right there.
right. So then, according to the source, it's a little bit old, but I still see dumping today, so I know it's still happening. The US government allows about 25% of untreated raw sewage to be blended with your treated sewage that ends up as your tap water because they know that they add so much chlorine and ammonia that they assume is going to kill the bugs. Okay? So that's your tap water.
You
and
used it
beyond that,
already.
yeah, it's disgusting. So then when we take a shower, so when we think about, it's not even just drinking the water, it's when we take a shower, because there's so much chlorine in the water, well, our skin is permeable. So a molecular weight of less than 3,000 can enter our dermis, so can pass through the skin. Do you want to take a guess of what chlorine is? It's 35.4.
Oh.
Okay. So a 10-minute shower is equal to drinking 8 glasses of this nasty tap water.
Yeah, and I know isn't at our cellular level, especially when we're talking about, you know, our integumentary system and stuff like that, isn't it naturally hydrophilic, right? Isn't our skin naturally like the cells want to pull in water, they want to stay hydrated, they have that natural desire to have that permeability at the cellular level to allow things in. So people go, well, I'm just taking a shower, it's not a big deal. I know I'm on kind of a rural water supply here. It was so horrific. When I turned on the sink, I literally felt like I was at a high school swimming pool again. Yep. When I would turn on the sink. And it took me a year and a half or so to really learn and understand these things, because I'm like, I feel horrible on the inside. And even when I take a shower, and I know that also it's aerating a lot of that chlorine in the water. So then you have, I mean, it's chlorine gas, right? For lack of a better word, you have that that inhalation of the steam of the high chlorine contented water, which is coming into your lungs and now perfusing. Now it's actually being broken into the cellular level, it's being carried by your red blood cells throughout the body. And again, it's decreasing your ability to, you know, exchange nutrients at the micronutrient level. And I know I personally experienced it. It was so horrific. I was complaining about it for a year and a half until I was willing to finally do the research and be like, I'm poisoning my kids to death. I'm poisoning myself to death. I can't believe I'm ingesting this in my body. If that's what it smells like on the outside, I can't imagine what it's doing to my GI tract. And no one understands my GI tract is responsible for what? Like 90% of my health, my overall systemic health and things like that. And so, you know, we finally go out and I get the shower head thing that's supposedly doing filtering, and that made a huge difference. And then doing the Berkey filters and stuff like that. But it's like, it's unbelievable what you think like, well, I'm going to avoid pops. I'm going to avoid the aspartame. I'm going to avoid the sugars and avoid whatever. I'm going to hydrate. Well, you're actually embalming yourself.
Right.
For lack of you're embalming yourself by drinking a tap. It's like, man, you can't get away from it. It's like, how do we get our bodies to function like maximize these wonderful machines that God has created? And like, Jen, keep fire hosing us. Like, we need this stuff, man.
I want to talk about the water too for a minute, because we got what do you feel about the shower heads? I think we got an Aquasonic. Is there better ones than others? The shower and regular filters? So
I have a system from a guy who has been really brilliant. So my system has a 4-stage. So it essentially will purify it. It makes it a high solvency, so it increases the bioavailability of it. It's an antioxidant. It alkalizes the water. So it has kind of multi-stages that it runs through. So anybody who wants to have me connect with those guys, I can do that. And their system is comparable to other house systems, and they work really, really well. I've been really spoiled after having that system, because now when I don't have it at the clinic, and when I turn on the clinic water just to wash my hands, it's just like it hits me in the face. The smell of the chlorine.
Nice. What about distilled water?
Distilled water is pure.
Because I have a distiller.
Yep. So it's good, clean water. It's not going to be alkaline, and it's not going to be the most bioavailable, but it's clean water.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and can we like do anything to it? Is like at least like a good start?
It's a great start. If that's what you have access to, do that, because your bottled water is 25% of the time it's still tap water. So I don't encourage people to do bottled water, because oftentimes it's still tap water, and if it's been sitting at all, it's still going to leach plastics and BPA possibly and all these other things. So if you can do a distiller, or if you could do like a filter like the zero water filter, if you can't get, a more expensive unit, really is what it boils down to, at least do a distilled water or some sort of purified water.
Okay. Jen, what's your take on, things that are kind of more practical for most households financially, even along the lines of, not doing a plug for one brand over another, but lack of a better analogy, like a Berkey water filter, the charcoal based water filters, the anti-fluoride type stuff. Mm-hmm. Is the efficacy of those equal to what they're touting? I mean, are they good to go? Like, would you give them 2 thumbs up for being able to take that in the home as a place to start being able to have a healthier lifestyle?
Yes. So again, it'll be a clean water. So they do a great job with filtering out contaminants, but they're still what I would call dead water, in the sense that it's been stripped of its minerals and it's not alkali. It's not going to give you that increase in pH, but it's still good, clean water. And if that's
right, so it's actually taking out some of the micronutrients that you want to remain inside a natural water. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Awesome. Well, I mean, that's, like I said, that's good to know, and that's usually a good place for most people to start, at least to keep all the fluoride and all the pharmaceuticals that are being washed down the drain and everything else, the glyphosates and those things out of their drinking water, especially if you have young, I mean, obviously for everybody, but especially if you have young developing kids. It's like, you cannot be letting them drink the tap water. It impairs so much at developmental stage neurologically and everything else in them, to have them be ingesting that water. And sadly, it's by design. We know that. But again, not to get lost in the weeds, but
let's do a lot of that.
Fix it. Let me ask you this about that. The distilled water, what about adding just like a touch of calcium, magnesium, maybe a touch of hydrogen peroxide, maybe a touch of some Himalayan sea salt, along those lines? What do you think?
Yep, that would definitely be a place that you can start as well.
Okay, so if they can't afford the the $800 to $1,200 systems, at least you can get a distiller for $40-50 and distill it, and then put a couple little things like that, and you can easily get a high quality calcium, magnesium, and Himalayan sea salt. You can get it Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or something. All right, so there's a start. All right, cool. All right, and this is where it's going to get interesting for people, because how do you get away from the electro smog? We're going to start on the detox topic.
So the detox. So we talked the last show that you and I did about the importance of detox, and I generally will encourage people to detox even before you supplement, because the most expensive supplement will be the one your body can't absorb. Right? So you want to clean out the system, and the things that you can start with, most people can starting with the clean water and then starting with the electrosmog. So
electrosmog is this.
That's a big one. But even with your Wi-Fi, you don't need to sleep with it on all night. So I encourage people, I don't even have it at the house, but if you need to have it at home, put it on a timer. It doesn't need to be on and zapping you while you're sleeping. Take your phones and keep them off your body. I cringe when I see people walking around with their Apple Watches and all these things, because that is an electromagnetic frequency that you have attached and radiating your body all the time. So get as much of the electronic stuff away from your body as you can.
I actually, on a side note, I'm aware of that. Not to mention, there's some other privacy concerns with all the passive listening devices and tracking devices on our things. But I use some of those RFID blocking pockets for my phone, And actually, that's when I always do my most amazing intellectual, gymnastics that night in bed, staring at my phone, reading stuff. No, just kidding. No, but I started having a due diligence of, because being aware of that is slipping my phone in that pocket every night. When it's near my head, near the bedstand. I know, I know all the different studies are showing even 6 feet plus, there's still some effects at the cellular level, but just throwing that thing in the pocket, it blocks out all electronic signals coming and going, because, I found even Wi-Fi, as beneficial as it is to unplug your Wi-Fi's at night and stuff like that, your phone is an antenna permanently. Yes. It's a permanent antenna. It's sending and receiving data 24/7. And I know how that can throw your neurology and throwing off your circadian rhythm, and it can give the illusion that there's light, which is throwing off your security. There's all kinds of different things going on at the neurological level, which why it's fascinating. Sorry, I come from a family of chiropractors and naturopaths and stuff like that, so I'm in tune to this stuff. But anyways, I know that that's something that's been beneficial for us, is just to always make sure and keep that stuff away, because you don't need it. Like, put the phone down.
Try not.
I'm preaching to myself.
Don't do a TV in the bedroom. I try to keep my phone in another room. Don't use it for your alarm if you can. People would say I'm extreme, but I've just seen too many cases.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you'd rather err on the side of caution. That's what I say. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be a difficult one, I think, for people.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be, because I mean, like, everybody's world is attached to them at this point. I mean, even right now we're on this, but I got a wired internet here. But that's going to be addressed in this 6-week program.
Yep.
Fat, my favorite thing. Fat adaptation, good or bad for you?
So I'm not going to get into some rabbit holes. Our goal is to cause our bodies to be fat adapted. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember the year, but at some point, this whole low fat diet thing got to be a thing. And it's actually been very detrimental to us, because our bodies need fat. So most people today are metabolic sugar burners, meaning that the cells are looking for glucose first as an energy source. And you can see how well that's worked for us when you look around the general population. So we want to get our cells to use fat, so specifically ketones. Ketones are a very clean burning fuel, and actually when we can burn ketones, we get to be very efficient. So we've seen metabolic issues, something as simple as fatigue and brain fog. I have a client right now. She was in a very traumatic head-on collision many years ago, and she suffered a long time. And I've started to shift these things, and she's finally, now in her late 70s, starting to clear the brain fog, starting to be excited about interacting with other people, starting to enjoy life. So we can clear brain fog, we can clear out weight loss resistance. I have several people who are like, I've tried everything, I hardly eat anything, and I cannot lose weight. So we can break that resistance, anxiety, sleep problems, depression. You can plug in multiple different diagnoses, from diabetes to the one that starts with C. And many people have had really great success with getting the body to shift metabolically to being a fat burner or a ketone burner rather than a sugar burner.
And you can actually train your body to do that. So at some point, even if you had some sugar, it would just look for the fat first?
Yep.
Okay.
So we are going to create a system where our bodies have to adapt. And so if you think back to before we had a grocery store on every corner, and even now, if you find a very primitive culture, they eat off of the land. So in the springtime and the summertime, when there's a harvest, they eat that, which might be a little bit higher carb. But in the wintertime, there might be nothing. So they may be a complete fat meat burning culture. and then they may have to fast for periods of time. So it's this whole feast, fast sort of cycle. And so our bodies are used to that. It actually runs, we run very efficiently on that sort of cycle. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're going to kind of biohack that system.
Oh, nice. Nice. This is getting more interesting. On the sugar note, Jamie, you got anything before I ask my question?
Yeah, I mean, I just know, some of the body systems, obviously with my limited medical background, but our bodies sadly are straight up lazy, right? They like the most efficient, laziest way that your body can function. That's what it's going to choose to function. That's why it's so dangerous to put somebody on a ventilator. Because again, with your autonomic nervous system, it's going to go, oh, thank you, you're breathing for me, very nice. I don't need to breathe for myself anymore. You take them off the ventilator, they have about 72 hours, and usually their body starts decomping, right? That's kind of common. So it's the same thing with this high sugar content, right? This glucose type of environment that we live in with all the processed foods. And I mean, look on every bottle, everything has sugar induced into it. So that's easy energy. So of course, that's what your body's going to burn, which is why then at the cellular level, we start storing fat. It's like, oh, thank you. I'll take this over here now and I'll store that and I'll just keep burning this all the time. And I don't know, Doc Jen, maybe you can correct me on this. I mean, I personally, last year I fell off the wagon, right? I'm like Barney from The Simpsons or whatever, but I fell off the wagon. But I had amazing results with intermittent fasting, being very disciplined at intermittent fasting, because I didn't realize how much inflammation was in my GI tract, right? And I didn't realize how much inflammation was in my body, actually how much glucose my body was firing off of. And when I got very locked on and committed, was disciplined at intermittent fasting without breaking any of the protocols for it, I saw major result. I'm talking like, I'm not a big dude anyways, right? I lost like 28 pounds in I think 6 weeks of clean weight loss, right? Yep. Not crash diet weight loss. Right. 2 times the energy, was working out after having not eaten for 12 to 14 hours. I was getting better pumps in the gym, no supplementation, no anything. And I felt awesome. I think it was the holidays maybe last year where I kind of like slowly like started creeping back in. And then I before you know it, I got bad habits again. I got to get back after it. But I know that going into that where there was that metabolic repair and those times of the intermittent fasting each day, I mean, it revolutionized the way I felt. And I don't know if that's kind of where some of these protocols lean, but I'm just talking for personal experience, knowing how lazy and fat nasty our bodies want to be. That was a huge thing to say, stop burning sugar. You're going right for the fat. That's the better source of energy. We're going to burn clean fat, but you're going to feel actually increased energy at the same time, because you have all that gut health healing and that ability to absorb up the good nutrients, pass out the bad nutrients, and reduce inflammation throughout your body, and obviously have that increased immune system, right? The immunity coming from your gut health. So anyways,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just
You're correct. That's correct.
Yeah. So we can move you up from the. Sorry, we're going to move Jamie up from the 5-pound weights up to the 10-pound weights now.
Yes, finally.
Yes, we could go. I do have sugar questions. Where are you going next?
Sugar questions.
Yeah,
you were going to ask me sugar questions?
Yeah, I am. And so before we get on to the next topic.
Okay.
Coconut sugar.
It's still a sugar.
It's still glucose. A sugar. Okay, still glucose.
Better, less refined than white sugar, but it's still a sugar.
It says on the package, low glycemic and all that stuff. So it's a step in the right direction, but then you're still kind of fooling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Honey?
It is still a sugar. So it's still carbohydrates, it's still high calorie.
Okay, monk fruit.
Monk fruit is better as far as calories.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that you want to be careful with is that the sweetness will still trigger hunger. So when we start to get into this process, you won't want to get too much into that, because again, we're trying to train the body to kind of go first for fat and trying to control some cravings and trying to address some issues. So we don't want to trick the body and then trick it back into thinking about sugar.
Okay, so
Jen,
Yeah.
what's your take on, because I don't, this is where I kind of lose any sort of understanding of good healthy diet lifestyles, is like fructose sugar versus the other types of sugar. Obviously those are no-nos, but even in fructose, like I find myself, obviously when I'm supplementing my diet and I'm trying to eat clean, I'm like obviously have that hunger. So I find myself eating a lot of fruit, right? Because that's convenient. It's always the convenience is what we go back to, whatever is easiest.
Yep.
But then I'm like, man, I'm probably sabotaging myself because I don't understand all the different ways that the fructose sugars are breaking down and fermenting and doing whatever in my body. What's your take on the fructose, the intake of fructose type sugars?
So it's a natural sugar, which is good. But again, we're trying to train the body to get away from needing sugar as its primary energy fuel. So during this process, we're going to control that quite a bit. But when you have your fasting, feasting cycles, so you've met Sam. Sam is 6'3". He's a big dude. He all the time will say, how is it that you can eat as much as I can, and you're the size you are and I'm the size I am? And part of the reason why is because I use this system, meaning I will manipulate these dietary factors so that when I need to fuel, I can fuel and do the glucose or the fructose or protein or whatever it is. But then I can also biohack my system back to where I just go straight to those ketones. And it's a way to stay lean, but also enjoy. People have asked me a couple of times that since I've talked about this reset, they're like, but Thanksgiving's coming and we've got these different things coming. And I'm like, yes, you can still use that. And that can actually help you because you can use them as refeeds.
Yeah, no, that's all. I remember that's something that I enjoyed about the intermittent fasting was like the reward was you can crush it at night. You can just crush it with that meal. You don't have to do all the weird calorie counting. Oh no, what if, or over portioning or whatever. It's like, just go at it because your body's been in a fasted state. You're good to go. It's going to be able to handle it and
Right.
uptake the right things and burn it and process it right. So yeah, I mean, it is a whole different way of doing lifestyle. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to be a part of this program as well.
Cool.
Nice. So that leads us over to fruits and such, grapes and carrots and oranges and all that. How does that fit into the sugar world here?
Yep. So a lot of them are still high carbohydrates, which carbohydrates are essentially glucose in the system. So you can have some, but they're going to be very highly controlled in this program.
Okay, highly controlled in our program. Then there's kombucha.
Kombucha.
They use sugar to make it, but then the bacteria eats it. So is it still there?
So we can get very fine-tuned with all of this. So when we are getting into this process, on the days that we're having our fasting or on the days when we're being a little bit leaner, I just tell people to stay under 50 carbs a day. So 50 grams of carbohydrate a day. So whether that is from a kombucha or a piece of fruit or some carrots or whatever it is, lentils, people have different diets, and I'm not going to try to micromanage all those pieces. We're just going to say 50 grams of carbs is your max. So if your kombucha has 20 grams of carbs, well, that's 20 grams out of your 50.
And that's on the label somewhere.
That's generally on the label. It should be on the label.
What do they call that thing on the top of kombucha when you're making your homemade stuff that you use for your new fermenting
The mother.
thing?
Yes.
What's it called?
The mother.
The SCOBY.
SCOBY and the mother.
That's it. The SCOBY. I renamed my muffin top a SCOBY. So whenever I talk about my muffin top, I'm like, bro, don't be poking at my SCOBY. What's up?
That's good.
I gotta get a dog in there.
You can use that, Doc Jen, if you want. That's very technical, very professional
You
word.
got a SCOBY top there. What does that mean? Don't worry about it. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to talk about next on your list here is metabolic imbalances, with a whole bunch of other things behind it. So go.
So we talked about a lot of it already: the fatigue, the low energy, the diabetes, the word that starts with C, traumatic brain injury, chronic pain in general. All of these, in my opinion, are just symptoms of a metabolic issue. And there have been lots of people who have done research into this and have been really successful with addressing these issues with a metabolic approach. So that's why we're calling this metabolic reset, because we're trying to allow people to address these things in a really natural way, because our bodies are designed to do that anyway. So it'll get into that whole chronological age versus your biological age. So your chronological age is, how many years from birth you are versus the biological age. So I know people who are biologically in their 60s and their cellular age is 30, right? So
what about mental age?
I can't help you with that one.
You're off the spectrum, so it's okay. You're off the spectrum.
So that goes back to the telomeres. So if you were somebody who wanted to have your telomeres measured and all of that, that would point to your cellular age.
Okay.
Most people are just going to go by
measure them. You get like a little tape measure. How does one measure a telomere?
There are different scientific ways, different organizations, I'm sure, that can do that for you. I don't have a way to do that myself.
Oh, okay. But you just send in for like a lab test, I guess?
Possibly. I haven't looked into it a whole lot, but I know that like HCF, they've talked about it. So I know that there are ways to do it. I just don't know how to do it myself.
All right. It'd be cool. We could sell people little tape measures, telomere measures.
Telomere tape.
Yeah, telomere tape. And yeah, I know a lot of people go on diets and they hear the word diet and it kind of throws them off, and then they believe it and then they don't believe it, and then it's only good for a little while and they work for a little bit. This is not really a diet, though. Why don't we talk about that?
Mm-hmm. So I tell people often that most diets will work for a short term, right? Because if you're used to eating 3,000 calories a day and then you drop to 2,000, then yes, you'll lose weight. But is that going to be sustainable? So we want to create a sustainable process that you can use multiple times that will maximize your cellular processes, right? So instead of thinking diet, we're thinking lifestyle, and we're thinking strategies to maximize our cellular processes rather than thinking diet, because most diets will fail because most people don't have the self-discipline and the motivation to do this long term. But also scientifically, I can't remember the name of the research, but they've proven that extended low-carb diets actually kill your organs. So they took a group of people and they put them on a very healthy but very low carb diet for a long time, for I think 2 years. And when they went in, they found that the people were doing pretty well, but they were actually, their organs were dying because you can't sustain that long term. So what they found was long-term diets are actually bad for you.
So this would be the lifestyle change rather than a diet.
Yes.
Do macadamia nuts fit into the plan anywhere?
Yes, macadamia nuts are very good. I love them.
With sea salt and cracked pepper?
Yes.
All right, just checking. We were not going to ask about coffee just yet. All right. So we're starting the 6-week program. Tell us in an outline form, what can we expect from the whole thing in general, and then maybe each and every week bullet point it for us.
All right, so this is based off of HCF work. So I can't take credit for the format, but they've had a lot of success with it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is get our bodies to be fat adapted, meaning we're going to put our bodies into ketosis.
Okay, that's week 1.
That's week 1. Week 2, we're going to start to eat less often, meaning every time we eat, and not necessarily even when you eat, but anytime you put something in the body that your body has to do something with, whether it has to digest it or it has to assimilate it, that's going to take away from other processes, and it creates inflammation. So every time you put something in the body, your body has to do something with it. So we're going to create less time that your body has to assimilate and digest.
Okay.
So
Does that include water or no?
That doesn't include water. That's
Okay.
just whether that's kombucha or a milk or a meal or a handful of almonds. That's anything that you have to assimilate.
Okay.
And then week 3, we're going to get into our intermittent fasting, which Jamie talked about earlier. So that's when we start to decrease the eating window. And so that's where we're going to start to train people to eat within a smaller window of time so that their bodies are fasting for a longer period of time.
Okay, so are we going to like just jump right into the 8 hours of fasting, or we're going to like start with maybe 6 and then move it up a bit?
So again, that's going to be kind of where you get to play with it a little bit during that week 2 where we're eating less often. So I'm already accustomed to eating twice a day, but some people who are used to eating 4, 5, 6 times a day, they might have to cut down to eating 3 times a day. So that might be breakfast, lunch, and dinner as usual over whatever period of time that is, but you only do that breakfast, lunch, dinner during week 2. Week 3 means we're going to push that eating window. So that might be 8 weeks, that might be 8 hours, that might be 4 to 6 hours. A smaller window is better, but if you don't tolerate it, then you do what you tolerate. So if you need to do an 8-hour window, just try to get that closer to a 6 to a 4 hour.
Okay. And what about if you eat perpetually?
So that's where you're going to have
asking
a lot of
for a
fun during
friend.
week 2.
You made me laugh out loud. So
Okay. And in week 4, it says cycling. Do I have to get a bicycle?
So cycling is where we're going to start to manipulate this a little bit. So the 5-1-1 rule is where you're going to do an intermittent fasting 5 days a week. You're going to do 1 day where you're going to go 24 hours fasted, and you're going to have 1 day where you're feasting. Okay. So
And
you
that's a perpetual day.
And that you can do whatever.
Wow. I love this already.
So that's like your cheat day. So the cheat day is actually a refeed day, and you can do, obviously you kind of undo the benefits if you go really off the deep end, but that's where you don't worry about the calories. You eat, to feeling satisfied.
Okay.
And Doc Jen, you were saying that was week 5? Do you just do that for 1 week, or you do that for an extended period of time from there on out, or how's that? How do you integrate that?
This will be week 4. So this will be the 5-1-1 rule, meaning, of the 7 days for your week, so Monday through Sunday, because we're starting on a Monday, you pick 5 days that you're going to do an intermittent fast. You're going to pick 1 day, and generally, that might be a Saturday, or that might be a day, if you've got a Thanksgiving, or, you kind of pre-plan the day that you're going to feast, and then you pre-plan the day that you're going to fast.
Okay.
Well, what if you like put them back to back and you do the feast days, like, first day 1 week, and, so they got 2 days in a row? That's cheating, or?
It's kind of cheating.
All right, never mind.
Choose to do it.
But let me ask you this: as long as that cheat day is every week, I could probably do this for life.
Yeah, a lot of people frame it that way.
Okay, so week 5 gets a little bit more hairy.
Yep. So week 5, we're going to do 4 days of intermittent fasting. We're going to do 2 days, so 2 24-hour periods of complete fasting, and then we're going to do 1 feast day.
Okay. And then the culmination is week 6.
So week 6 is going to be the doozy for most people.
Okay.
So week 6 is your 5-day water fast.
Okay.
The reason it's a 5-day water fast is because most people are going to feel like they're going to die at day 3. The magic with the stem cells starts to happen at day 4, and you're going to maximize your stem cells on day 5. So you really want to do 5 full days. Okay. If you don't tolerate it, we can do a modified fast. There are a lot of different ways that we can do it, but you won't get the full benefit. You won't get the max benefit of the stem cells. But day 5 is where you get the most benefit.
It's interesting. And then, well, let me ask you this first. But after that, then we'll talk about what comes after that. It's kind of like the tribulation period. What comes after the tribulation period? My question is this: I've fasted several times for 7 days or more, and I notice I really it didn't phase me at all. It's like, oh, I got a little hungry, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And it lasted for 7 days. Probably because I had a little extra storage than most people. Part of it is probably because I'm hyper and maybe I didn't cross that threshold yet. What if, like me or anyone else out there says, well, that even a 7 day, nothing but water kind of didn't really do anything. Then what?
So you can extend it.
Mhm.
I know people who have done 20, 21-day fasts, and you can do that. You're going to get benefit. So we don't have a way to measure for most people your stem cell production,
Okay.
but the benefit will be there. So some people will report that they just feel better, their brain feels more clear, they're thinking better, they have more energy. Everyone will kind of have, based off of where you're starting, a different result. But the benefit is there. We know that from science.
Okay. Now, aside from medical advice, do you think that's a good idea to do 21 days of just water?
If you are not neurotoxic,
Hmm.
if you don't have, any sort of underlying issues, you will be fine.
Okay. It's not going to be too much. And I guess, if you pass out, then they can give you something to eat, right? Cool. All right. So we're on to that. What does it look like after the 6 weeks?
So after the 6 weeks, so 5 days of fasting, again, we are going to have all of these great stem cells circulating our system. We're going to have a period where we feed those stem cells, and then you can go back to whatever your normal lifestyle is. That's when you jump back to either a complete intermittent fasting lifestyle, or if you go back to 3 meals a day, you work with whatever best fits your lifestyle. But the 6 weeks is just a primer to get to the point where your body is fat adapted, so that when you get to the stem cell portion, the fasting portion, you can maximize the production of the stem cells, and then after that you feed the stem cells and you move on.
Okay. So I don't suppose you would recommend going back to like an original diet, like that got us to this place to begin with, or are
Right.
you saying, hey, you can go there, but then just do this again in 6 months?
Some people do it that way. So you can do this sort of process 3-4 times a year. I personally will do more of the 5-1-1 type every day or every week. So most days I will break fast, a late lunch sort of time frame. I have one day of complete fasting, and then one day where I don't worry about it.
Okay. Was that the day we ate the burnt ends? And that
Yes.
that
We
was
did
those were
not eat well
awesome.
at that retreat. Yes.
Yeah, but they were so good. Oh, and we all ordered the same thing. Yeah,
Yes.
we'll take the burnt ends. Well, we got to go burn some more. Hold on. Okay, because I mean, that would make sense to me. Is after you do this, at least tweak your lifestyle, which is normal. After that, I mean, obviously, don't eat at McDonald's every day if that's what you're doing. Cut that out, but eat a healthier diet. But okay, and you're gonna go through that as people go through the course as well, right?
Yep. So we'll walk through each week and what that looks like as people join the challenge. And again, I will do this with everyone so that we all kind of feel it and do it together. I've done multiple fasts, and they're always good, especially spiritually. This is a time when we should be praying and fasting anyway. But those days of fasting, you just find that you have so much time to pray and study, and we don't realize how much time we invest into buying food and preparing
Mm,
food and eating food and then cleaning up after the food. It's very time consuming. So
it is, especially at Trader Joe's these days. I mean, it takes you 2 hours to stand online, and then you got the mask checker lady. Get your mask done. And
Well,
it's
I
like,
mean that's one thing I was going to add too, and I know a lot of times, and obviously Jen, you've dealt with this. Like if you're trying to will yourself, like I want to will myself for, let's say your goal is weight loss, it's going to fail you almost almost 10 times out of 10, it will fail you if your goal is to will yourself to weight loss. But really, we have a unique opportunity, especially right now where we're at lateness of the hour, you know, those who are believers in Christ Jesus, to really take it to the next level of seriousness. And like we were talking earlier about building in resiliency, right? And a lot of that comes down to being willing to die to the flesh, die to the desires of the flesh, replace it with dependency on the Lord, purify our temples, right? Like drive the money changer, for lack of a better word, out of your temple, drive the things out, you know, get refocused on what has value, get focused on who is your provision, who is your sustenance, right? Who is your portion, who is your drink. At the same time as we're being strengthened mentally, physically, and emotionally. I mean, there's nothing that I could say more that has to do with what would be considered, you know, some degree of practical preparedness as an individual or as a household, as family, as spouses, no matter where we're at on our health journey or on our scale of health, right? No matter where we're at, is that the only thing that's going to help motivate in order to stay the course is that you have to know and understand the bigger picture of the why. Your why has to be so much bigger than weight loss. Weight loss is fine. It might get you through this first 6 weeks, this program, but it's not going to sustain you over the long term. The why has to be so that you can be an influencer, that you can be impactful, that you can be effective, that you can age gracefully, that you can be an asset, not a liability to the kingdom, and that you can be an asset, not a liability to those in your sphere of influence. So like, there's a lot more going on to this. You know, my bent is obviously, you know, strengthening and equipping the warrior class of the redeemed for the days ahead. I can't think of anything more strengthening and equipping than actually being strengthened and equipped, and physically, not to mention spiritually and emotionally, to be able to be a bright shining light in an ever darkening world. So, I mean, this is good stuff. I'm really looking forward to it, and I can't think of anything more applicable than you know, as you have the Trinity that's 3 in 1, so are we 3 in 1, mind, body, spirit, right? And so a lot of times we neglect one or the other. And we just can't do that anymore. We need to be vibrant, radiant, bold, steadfast, enduring, healthy, sober-minded, right? We can't have brain fog. We got to have all these things going on at the same time so that we can march forward and advance the kingdom in a very powerful and effectual way. So I couldn't agree more with what we got going on.
So does that mean you're committed to the program, Jamie?
I'm on it, bro. Let's go. Sign me up.
Nice.
My SCOBY. The SCOBY's got to go.
Get rid of the SCOBY.
SCOBY's
I'm
gotta
going to name it SCOBY. Cool. Well, this has been a phenomenal introduction. Jamie, thanks for joining us and committing to this, because you're going to be our guinea pig to make sure this all works. Everybody out there, we are super excited to have you join us. Jen, tell us what's involved as we close up with the program. Does it cost anything? How long is it? When are we going to do it? Is it a cutoff for who's can join? What's the deal?
Okay, so what I decided to do is, everybody loves a good challenge, so we're going to call it the Metabolic Reset Challenge. We're doing a $70 buy-in just because that's going to go into the honey pot, and then at the end, the people who complete the whole program will have a chance to win $100, $70, or $40 back. So that's only when you complete the whole program, including you're going to have to make and send me a list of your current concerns, a list of your goals, and you're going to have to send that to my email. And that's how I will know who to kind of track and follow over the course of the next 6 weeks. So we're going to start on Monday, I believe is the 26th. And that'll be day 1. So I'll need to know that you're joining us before that point in time, so that if you have questions, I will send the notes to that email address, and that's how I'll know to kind of communicate with whoever's involved.
Okay, great. I know we have payment platforms for us too. Is there a payment platform for you? And what email do they get hold of you at?
So you're going to email Jennifer, JENNIFER, at docgen.org, DOCJEN.org. And we can figure out from there whether it's going to be a Venmo or a PayPal or whatever works for individuals.
Okay, so that's on an individual basis. That's fantastic. Jamie, have any parting words?
No, I'm ready to get back in the fight. I'm still recovering from when Jen was putting the hurt to me on my knee, and I was able to get on the rocks last week, but I'm still not to the point where I have restored my body. And like I said, I've let my health slip, and I'm in that constant hypervigilant state. I got the adrenal fatigue and all that going on, so I'm a good test dummy to see what happens when we take some broke down dude who I should be healthy, and it may look like it on the outside, but my insides are all beat up. So I'm excited to see the outcome of this metabolic reset.
Yes, take the crayon eating girl weightlifting jarhead and see what we can do with them.
Yeah.
You happen to be one of the finest men I know.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can't reduce my SCOBY, which is what really matters at the end of the day.
AKA Muffin Top. Oh, this is phenomenal. Well, thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You can get hold of me at thehiddenday@yahoo.com. We do have PayPal links. If you do any of the links below, make sure it says for Doc Jen. We can get that, or you could just email her directly and work out all the logistics. We're looking forward to seeing you. We'll be starting the program October 26th, so we'll be putting up any subsequent videos for week 1 and week 2, and that'll give you the timing to do Thanksgiving. So that's going to be a big one for you. And then after that, there's subsequent programs, but this one's starting October 26th. And if you missed that date because it's after 26 now, just contact us and we'll let you know when we're going to get it started again. You have a great day. Bye-bye.